And let's consider an investor in Nigeria who wants to buy a US stock, in the US and stock exchange, the New York Stock Exchange. Let's assume the stock is selling for $300. $300 is about, let's assume 1,005 per for every, for 1,005 per dollar. All right. A dollar is around 1,500 naira. If you multiply that amount by 300, you're talking about 400 something thousand naira. So a typical investor in Nigeria may not be able to afford, 450,000 to buy shares to buy a unit of shares in the US in a typical, company in the New York Stock Exchange. There's a way out of this particular predicament, and it is called fractional share ownership. In other words, you could buy a fraction of a unit of the share, in these regards. Instead of going for a single share for $300, you could go for maybe you could buy a fraction of it for maybe, let's say, $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 or even $1. So in that case, that's what is called fractional ownership. If you cannot afford the entire $300, you could buy for maybe $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 or $5. And so fractional shares refers to a portion of a stock that are less than the full shares. These are particularly useful for investors who may not have the funds to buy whole shares of an expensive stocks, or who may want to invest a small amount consistently. So here is a breakdown of fractional shares. We want to explore what fractional share or fractional share ownership is all about. So these are the key features of fractional shares. Number one is partial ownership. Partial ownership. So investors own a fraction of a share rather than the whole unit of the share. For example, owning maybe 0.5% of a share of a stock that is worth $1,000. So you may choose to own 0.5 percent of a share that is as expensive as $1,000. You own a fraction of it. Number two is accessibility. It allows individuals to invest in high price stocks with a smaller amount of capital, as I earlier explained. If you can afford 450,000 naira, you can afford maybe 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 naira to invest in those highly priced stocks. Number two, there's flexibility. So it enables precise investment amounts, making it easier it makes it easier for you to invest a fixed sum of money. And there's diversification. Number four is diversification. So investors can spread smaller investments into smaller investment amongst many different stocks that you so wish to buy. Maybe you want to buy, let's say, 5 or 10 stocks, and you can't even afford the price of a single stock. If you want to buy it at the actual price, so you can just divide your money into 10 and buy small, tiny units of shares in 10 different companies. That's a very important characteristic of fractional share ownership. So you want to equally look at how fractional shares are created. How are they created? All right. So in this case, we consider number one, dividend reinvestment plans. Dividend reinvestment plans. When dividends are reinvested, they may, they may buy partial shares. Usually, dividends are not always very much. So you have a tiny dividend and you want to buy the shares of the company that issue the dividends. In that case, you have to go in for fractional ownership because the dividend given you may not be able to buy, a full unit, a full single unit of the shares of that particular company. So number two is in stock splits. Fractional shares can result from uneven stock splits or reverse splits. If you want to know much about stock split and reverse split, you could then search for it in my channel. Simply type in reverse splits or stock splits. That will lead you to a video that will describe this particular phenomenon in greater details. There's brokerage platforms. Many platforms now allow investors to purchase fractional shares directly. Some platforms, some brokerage platforms, give you the opportunity of buying fractional shares directly. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel if you've not done that. Let's look at the advantages of fractional share ownership. Number one is affordability. It's very affordable, particularly for beginner investors. It's affordable with those on low budgets. It equally improves diversification. You can put small amount of money into many different companies. There's customization. So it aligns investment with your individual goal and budget. You could customize your portfolio with this strategy. Not only that, you have reinvestment opportunities. It allows reinvestment of dividends down to the cents. You have a tiny dividends and you cannot really buy a whole share. You could reinvest your tiny dividends, into a fraction of the shares you want to purchase. Let's consider the disadvantages. There is the issue of liquidity. Fractional shares may be harder to sell, especially outside brokerage platform that issues them. So how do you sell? Because you will need a fractional, someone that wants to buy a fractional shares you could sell to. In the case where there is none, it will be difficult for you to dispose your investment. There is a broker dependency. Not all brokerage support fractional trading, which tends to limit your options. Not all brokerage platforms will give you the opportunity of buying fractional shares. And there's a lack of shareholder rights. Your shareholding is so minute that you have no say on how the company is run or managed. Not only that, there's fees and restrictions. Some platforms may charge fees or impose limits on fractional trading. It happens. Then who should consider fractional shares? Who should consider fractional shares? So it's for beginners. For beginners with little budget, they are enthusiastic about investing, but the money is not there. So you could still participate. It's also for small investors. Small investors with a limited capital and they have a desire to buy, high price stocks could, buy fractional shares. And it's also for those who are looking for diversification, for diversification seekers. Investors looking to spread their risks, across multiple stocks without large capital can also partake in this, venture. Then a popular platform offering fractional shares. Let's look at platforms that would that you could use to buy fractional shares. You have Robinhood, Fidelity, Charge Schwab, eToro. they all offer fractional shares. So by enabling, greater flexibility and accessibility, fractional shares have democratized, investing. That's very important. So allowing more people to participate in the stock market without the barrier of high cost. With a little capital, you can buy fractional ownership in as many companies as possible.